Easter Sunday. Even if you might not want to admit it, you're probably looking forward to eating those chocolate Easter eggs and those peeps. Guilty pleasures.
Looks like you are in some trouble.
The Easter Bunny is a much celebrated character in American Easter celebrations. But according to Google, thousands of Americans wonder every year, do bunnies lay eggs? Long answer short, no. Bunnies, rabbits, or hares, they're all mammals. But the bigger question about Easter, the holiday commemorating the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ, what do bunnies and chocolates have to do with it? Well, the origins of Easter is going to be a long and interesting journey, so hold tight to your baskets and let's hop right into it. So they say, 2,000 years ago, a man named Jesus of Nazareth was crucified by the Romans and after 3 days and 3 nights, raised from the dead. And ever since, his followers, the Christians, have been celebrating this miraculous event. Or not. Easter was actually mandated as a uniform observance 325 years after the death of Jesus, during the time of King Constantine at the Council of Nicaea. King Constantine was a pagan Roman, an avid worshipper of the sun god of Rome, Sol Invictus. His coinage and official motives all bore the symbol of Sol Invictus, and even after he converted to Christianity around 312, paganism was still present in public affairs under his rule. But King Constantine aimed to Christianize his empire, and he planned to do so by adopting existing pagan rituals and beliefs of the Romans into Christianity. At the Council of Nicaea, the Easter celebration was first mandated to fall on the Sunday after the first full moon of the spring equinox. Note to be made, Easter is used in the English-speaking world. Many more cultures refer it by the terms best translated as Passover, for instance, Pascha in Greek, a reference indeed to the Jewish festival of Passover, Pesach. In the Hebrew Bible, Passover is a festival that commemorates the liberation of the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt, as narrated in the book of Exodus. Christians believe the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus occurred during the time of the Jewish Passover. However, this date actually did not and does not necessarily coincide with the date of the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. Easter Sunday and relatable celebrations such as Ash Wednesday or Palm Sunday are considered movable feasts, as it typically falls on the first Sunday after the full moon occurring on or after the spring equinox. This time of the year, known as the spring equinox, is when the length of the nights in the northern hemisphere becomes identical to the length of the days. Spring is a time of renewal and rebirth as winter begins to fall away with the promise of sunnier, longer days lying ahead. For thousands of years, people from varying cultures have marked and celebrated the equinoxes and solstices, longest and shortest days of the year. The winter solstice was celebrated by ancient pagans, in which Romans celebrated Saturnalia, the Norse celebrated Yule, and down the line, these pagan holidays and traditions became the origins of Christmas. You can check out the video on the origins of Christmas on my channel. The pre-Christian ancient world is filled with stories of resurrection around spring, and thus Easter became associated with nature's rebirth and renewal, or from a Christian perspective, associated with the rebirth or resurrection of Christ. Long before the advent of Christianity, the Germanic spring festival Easter was celebrated throughout Europe, honoring the pagan fertility goddess Istra. Traditions including the rabbit, or eggs, root from the ancient beliefs associating the rabbit or eggs as symbols of new life and fertility. Easter is a celebration of spring. Flowers are blooming, birds are laying eggs, and baby bunnies are hopping about. As new life emerges in spring, the Easter Bunny hops back once again, providing a long-standing cultural symbol to remind us of the cycles and stages of our own lives. In 731 CE, Bede, an early medieval monk considered to be the father of English history, wrote about the Anglo-Saxon goddess of fertility, Istra. Bede noted that in the 8th century England, the month of April was called Istra Manath or Istra month, after the goddess Istra. Traditions of eating hot cross buns, which may seem related to Christianity, were originally done by the Germanic people, who would bake fresh bread in honor of the goddess Istra. The fresh buns, marked with a cross, would represent the 4 quarters of the moon, or 4 seasons, a cycle of life. In European traditions, the Easter bunny is known as the Easter hare. The symbolism of the hare has had many tantalizing ritual and religious roles through the years. In fact, hares were given ritual burials alongside humans during the Neolithic Age in Europe. Archaeologists have interpreted this as a religious ritual, with hares representing rebirth. Even during the Iron Age, ritual burials for hares were common, and in 51 BCE, Julius Caesar mentioned that in Britain, hares were not eaten due to their religious significance. Caesar would likely have known that in the classic Greek tradition, hares are sacred to Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Meanwhile, Aphrodite's son, Eros, was often depicted carrying a hare as a symbol of unquenchable desire. Now, a lot of people might say reconstructing any Anglo-Saxon religious cult or rituals is next to impossible, as they had no written language and left no records. The only documented reference of Istra is traced to the 8th century monk, Saint Bede. However, whether we have information specifically on Istra or not, historians will agree that the worship of fertility goddesses was widespread, not only throughout Europe, but around the world, like in ancient Egypt, like Isis, in Mesopotamia, like Ishtar or Inanna, in Greece, like Aphrodite, in Rome, like Venus, etc. All these goddesses, although by different cultures and peoples had different names, were in essence the same deity of fertility. One of the oldest known fertility goddesses was that of the Mesopotamian Ishtar or Inanna, some 2,000 years before Christ. Historians assert the cult of Inanna or Ishtar heavily influenced the cult of the Canaanite Phoenician goddess of love and fertility, Astarte. The Phoenicians in turn introduced Astarte to the Greek islands of Cyprus and Cythera, where she either gave rise or heavily influenced the Greek goddess Aphrodite. Aphrodite took on Inanna or Ishtar's association with sexuality and procreation. Furthermore, she was known as Orania, which means heavenly, a title corresponding to Inanna's role as the Queen of Heaven. Early artistic and literary portrayals of Aphrodite were extremely similar to Inanna or Ishtar. Aphrodite also absorbed Ishtar's association with doves, which were sacrificed to only her. The Greek word for dove was peristera, which may be derived from the Semitic phrase para Ishtar, meaning bird of Ishtar. The myth of Aphrodite and Adonis is derived from the story of Inanna and Dumuzid. The story goes that Ishtar, or Inanna, descended into the underworld to find her recently deceased husband. There she was killed before being brought back to life by other gods. She was permitted to return to the world as the sun for 6 months before having to descend into the underworld once again during the winter for a further 6 months. This is perhaps one of the first ancient stories of resurrection and rebirth centered on spring. Some historians and scholars also connect Athena, the Greek goddess of wisdom and war, to resemble Inanna's role as a terrifying warrior goddess. Others have noted that the birth of Athena from the head of her father Zeus could be derived from Inanna's descent into and return from the underworld. And on the other hand, we also have a very similar concept of the cycle of seasons in the Greek myth of Hades and Persephone. If you're interested in that, you can also check out this video on my channel. Thus, Greek culture and religion do have origins and were highly influenced by Mesopotamian religion and culture. However, although some might say Easter roots from Ishtar, that might not be the case. The worship of fertility goddesses, however, surely seems to be the root of Easter. In fact, the holiest site of Christendom, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which was initially founded by Constantine in 335, was built on the site of the pagan temple of the fertility goddess Aphrodite, or by other names, Inanna or Ishtar. Down the line, in the folk traditions of England and Germany, where the figure of the hare is specifically connected to Easter. Accounts from the 1600s in Germany describe children hunting for Easter eggs hidden by the Easter hare. much as it is in the US today. Written accounts from England around the same time also mention the Easter hare, particularly in terms of traditional Easter hare hunts and eating of the hare meat at Easter. One tradition, known as the hare pie scramble, was held at Hallaton, a village in England. It involved eating a pie made with hare meat and people scrambling for a slice. In 1790, the local parson tried to stop the custom due to its pagan associations, but he was unsuccessful, and the custom continues in that village till this day. The eating of the hare may have been associated with various long-standing folk traditions of scaring away witches at Easter. Throughout Northern Europe, folk traditions record a strong belief that witches would often take the form of a hare, usually for causing mischief such as stealing milk from neighbors' cows. Witches in medieval Europe were said to be able to suck out the life energy of others, making them ill. Nonetheless, the Easter hare came to America with German immigrants, and the hare's role passed to the common American rabbit. Originally, children made nests for the rabbit in hats, bonnets, or fancy paper boxes, rather than the baskets of today. Once the children finished their nest, they put them in a secluded spot to keep from frightening the shy rabbits. The appealing nest, full of colored eggs, probably helped the custom to spread. Back in southern Germany, the first pastry and candy Easter bunnies became popular at the beginning of the 19th century. This custom also crossed the Atlantic, and children still eat candy rabbits, particularly chocolate ones, at Easter. Commercialization during the 19th century saw rabbits becoming a popular symbol of Easter with the growth of the greeting card industry. So card companies like Hallmark became big by launching images of cute little rabbits and Easter eggs on cards. Big confectionery companies like Cadbury in England started manufacturing chocolate eggs. Chocolate used to be something that was bitter and drunk, but then it became sweetened and turned into a confectionery treat. Today, chocolate eggs and egg hunts are a popular part of the Easter celebrations around the world. And Easter has become a commercial event, but also a religious one, as the chocolate bunnies and eggs serve as a reminder of Easter's ancient origins and Christian traditions.
Easter. Eggs. Eggs. Where's everyone going? Easter eggs?
If you liked our video, don't forget to subscribe and follow our channel for more videos like this one.